What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/ProRevenge. This story's called Pathological A-Hole Gets What's Coming For Him. This happened a few years ago, so I feel I'm ready to share it with you guys. I was starting my career in security business and had little experience of field work itself. In my country, private security is highly regulated, important later, and licenses are needed almost every step of the way. I was studying in local security school from where I would eventually graduate as a security supervisor. While studying, I decided to apply for a job at a small private security company to get some extra cash. The company mainly handled sport events and concerts. I was one of almost 100 people working and soon learned that connections you make in job are most important. Work was good and I had an awesome team where we handled security checks and also traffic near the event locations. As I was lacking funds to get pro equipment, I was forced to get used material. Workwear, vests, second grade pepper spray, etc. Here is when our scamming pathological liar comes in. Let's call him Sammy. Sam was a bit weird but a social character and was, at the time, deemed nice by many in our company. I had made some friends with similar situations in our company and Sammy soon came to us, promising that he could sell us new sets of vests and equipment with reasonable prices. We were stupid to believe him, but we made the deal as circles in security business were small and bad word spread fast, so we thought there was no risk. He got the money up front and promised delivery on day X, a few weeks from that. Soon he called me and asked if I was interested in being a bouncer a few times in the next week. I said sure, as I needed the money. He promised that he would pay me in cash later that month. He also asked if I was interested in working as security in a county fair. I said sure, as they were the easiest money there is. I did the bouncer gigs as agreed and later went to the county fair. There was other people from our company there as well. Sammy was head of security. There I asked about the equipment me and my friends paid for. He said they would arrive next week. Weeks passed. No money from fair and no equipment. He transferred me money from the bouncer gigs, but only half of what was promised. When I asked about it, he said there was a fee as he was the middleman. He also claimed the county fair had financial issues, so he couldn't pay. Next week, he had another explanation. In normal work and sporting events, colleagues who had worked with me in the fair had not been paid either, and they were suspecting that something was wrong. I was getting worried, so I called the county fair organizers directly, which Sammy had specifically told me not to do as he was taking care of the situation, to ask them what is going on. They were baffled. They told me that responsibility for the county fair security was given to a voluntary organization of old and retired security officers who worked for the community free of charge. It was a voluntary, non-paid gig. Sammy was volunteering for that organization. He had been given a job to get volunteers to work for the fair, and he had thought that it would be easier to get them if he promised them pay. I had lost more than $350 in his shenanigans in a week, and I needed that money. I called the organization about the situation, and they fired Sammy on the spot from his responsibilities, and he was banned from all events they were working on. The security company I worked for also had a small carrier hauling business on the side. I applied for that as I had a license to drive a truck, and the boss was understanding that I really needed the job. I hadn't seen Sammy anywhere as he was on leave from security gigs and nobody knew where he was. Also, people were pretty mad at him after they heard from me what he had done. After 2 weeks at the truck job, I was asked to come to the office. It turned out that the day before, I had done my route completely wrong and deliveries had been too late. I was fired on the spot. Leaving the office, Sammy comes from nowhere at the hallway. He stares at me and smiles like the devil himself and says, "Oh, you lost your job? Well, that's what happens when you F with the wrong people." I was stunned and didn't know what was happening. Sam walked to the office behind me and closed the door. Later that day, I learned that he was responsible for the routes and delivery markings and times. He had been hired just a few weeks before me for that job. He got me fired. I quit my job at the security company as the boss sided with Sammy, even though he admitted that Sammy was probably guilty of making me fail at the job. I couldn't go to the police as it was literally his word against mine. I was beyond angry and made a silent and holy promise that I would ruin Sammy's life, no matter what it takes. Soon I applied for a job in another bigger security company, which handled supermarkets, malls, etc., and got the job. A few years passed and I had proven to be a trustworthy and hardworking security officer, so usually when there was someone new in the job, they were handed to me for training or job introduction. Meet Jay. He came to learn the basics, and while I was teaching him, I also asked about his life and everything as we would be working closely together. Jay told me everything about his life and mentioned that he was working on the side also in a security company named X, and the X was a very close name to a local well-known security company called XX. I thought he had mispronounced the company name, as he was from the countryside and his dialect was different than mine, but he insisted that he worked in Company X. I asked who his boss was, and it was Sammy. I realized that years of waiting had paid off, as I knew what Sammy had done, and now for the revenge. I told Jay everything that had happened between me and Sammy. Jay was shocked, but agreed that he had also been suspecting something was a bit off with Sammy. As everything was bureaucratic in my country, there was public record of all security companies. Sammy's company was not a registered company, which is a felony as he doesn't have a license. Jay told me that Sammy had about 15 people working for him, and they had a private Facebook site where he was acting as a job agent and handled the workers' salaries. I knew exactly what he was doing. He was fooling them all, that he takes care of their taxes and pension contributions as they are employer's duty, but in reality, he just took the money for himself and falsified the payslips. I asked Jay to collect all the evidence he can of Sammy. Jay took pictures, screenshots, and collected statements from his colleagues. Soon, Sammy heard about this and fired Jay from his fake company and started to threaten him with lawsuits and that Jay couldn't ever get a job without Sammy's approval anywhere, which was utter BS. Jay had already gotten a job in the company I was working in after I gave a good word and vouched for him. I started to piece together the puzzle of Sammy's wrongdoings for my revenge. First, I called his clients and business associates and presented them with rock-hard evidence. One by one, he lost his customers. Then I contacted the police about his tax evasion and false security company. At this point, the local IRS was more than interested in Sammy's business. Soon, I heard that he had vanished completely from the public. Not much later, I learned that he was convicted on numerous charges and had to pay thousands in legal fees and fines and received probation for about a year. He had to hide from the public, as he had also lied about his education and had scammed numerous people. I started to receive messages on Facebook that his story was spreading like wildfire. I heard that he can't get work from anywhere as his story was shared in my country's biggest private security-oriented page on Facebook with more than 80% of all active security officers and bouncers belonging to that group page. I was more than happy, but somehow felt that Sammy still had something else coming for him. Last year, I heard he was running an ATV quad bike organization and was again collecting fees from those who wanted to be part of the ATV safaris, etc. Even though he was a notoriously bad driver, something told me not to do anything, and you would not believe it. One day, Sammy was leading his ATV safari and crashed his ATV and broke his spine. I didn't feel sorry for him at all, as I know what kind of scum he really is. I saw him a few months after, and he had a walking stick and was limping badly. Now, my revenge was complete, with a little aid by our fair friend Karma. That guy got what was coming to him. You don't mess with people's pay. Like, that is the one thing you don't— okay, not the one thing, but that is one of the things you seriously should not mess with. If someone's expecting a certain amount of payment from you, you gotta deliver that payment, otherwise you're scum, and that's obvious. This story's called, "You Stole My Car, I'll Make You Homeless." This story happened approximately 4 years ago to a friend of mine. He and his wife, girlfriend back then, took a house loan, bought a new Chevrolet Camaro, and in general, they were preparing for a life together. He had proposed to her. Because of their lack of free time due to their hard working to pay off the loan, they didn't have time for themselves nor for the normal amount of other things such as housework. So they hired a maid. His first impressions indications about her were good, and they decided that she's the person they will trust, and they handed her their house keys, because they are at work most of the times that she came around to clean their house. First few weeks, she worked hard and always paid attention to detail and nicely cleaned their house from the bottom to the very top. She was also instructed not to let anyone in and to always lock the door when she left. After 6 months of her working there, strange things began to happen. Not in an anomalous way, but things started to disappear, being stolen. It all started with small things like AA batteries, which are barely noticeable missing. But soon things graduated as phone chargers, perfumes, the more expensive ones, and some electrical gadgets went missing. My friend thought that he simply lost them, but soon the maid raised suspicion as the things went missing when my friend wasn't present when she was detailing their house. But without any evidence, blaming her wasn't in place. Also, he found out on some social media that she had got some serious debts, at least in thousands of dollars, ailments, divorce court settlements, etc. So he decided to install security cameras, and he didn't tell the maid. 5 weeks forward, and he had enough evidence to press charges on her, as the things she stole were valued at $250 plus. In my country, anything stolen above $250 is considered a crime. He got furious when his flash disk containing private documents, as well as some of his billing and official work documents, was stolen. But he wanted to get her even more into the stealing so he can squish every last cent out of her. So he came up with a plan. He told the maid that he and his girlfriend will be gone for a week for a honeymoon and that he'll be going by taxi so as to not pay extra money that the airports charge for the parking. That means his brand new Chevrolet Camaro will stay parked in the house the maid has got the keys of. They rented an apartment through Airbnb just a few blocks away from his place and placed a GPS tracking keychain into his car so he could see where his car is through the phone app. He then placed the car keys in a visible spot in the house so the maid will notice. All that was left was to wait for the magic to happen, and his intuition was right. After 2 days of almost constant watching, the GPS tracker's location in the car left the garage. All of a sudden, the car was cruising at 90 miles per hour on the highway. My friend immediately called the cops. They caught the maid something like 20 miles away, and now the revenge can take place. He decided to press charges on the maid. At the court, the maid told the judges that my friend told her to drive the car to some untold location. She acted like she forgot where it was. And the one that should go to jail is him because he wrongly accused her and he just wants to get money from her to pay for his loan. But the tables turned. My friend and his lawyer showed the court all the video evidence of her stealing his stuff valued highly above $250. It was like $40,000 including the car. So it was a crime. She started swearing and telling every single lie she could think of. The security had to calm her down. She is facing 5 years in jail and was charged $5,000 including all the stolen property but the car, his lawyer, and some other court stuff. The price was excluding the car because it was returned almost immediately. Few days later, the police did a house check on her and most of the stolen stuff was there. There were also some other things reported missing from other customers of hers. Due to her previous debts and her new one she owes, she will very likely become homeless when she gets out of jail. Hope you'll enjoy it, bench. And he added this: a lot of you are commenting my friend is a booty hole. I agree with you. He isn't my close friend for a reason. He is a bit crazy, but that does not mean this is not a revenge story. Please stop spamming the comment section with it. Thanks. Do you guys think that's excessive? Because that's a lot of deliberate decision making that directly hurts you. Like, she was gonna steal a car, okay? Cars, brand new Chevrolet Camaros, they aren't really cheap. So I think it's completely justified because all they did was call the cops on her. She was the one who did all the dirty stuff. All they did was report it because it was hurting them. If they didn't, they would lose a lot of stuff. This story's called, Today I Fudged Up by Making a FedEx Driver Probably Wonder If I Was a Necrophiliac. Not today, but a few months ago. So I ordered a purple mattress and noticed a tracking change to a day earlier than originally projected, and I was unexpectedly home. I was glad I'd be there to bring it right inside so it didn't sit out all day. But I was only home because I was a little under the weather and barely slept the night before. I was basically a zombie. I should also add that when I don't sleep well, it's written all over my face in the form of dark circles under my eyes. At about 9:30 a.m., I heard the sound of a delivery truck tailgates, and upon looking outside, see the guy pulling out a long purple tube. I was expecting a box because that's the only way I've ever seen mailed mattresses like this come, hence the term mattress in a box. If it had come in a box, I would have possibly avoided this whole F-up, honestly. I watch him remove this mattress-length thick purple tube from the truck and throw it over his shoulder, so I go to greet him at the door. I'm exhausted, waiting to get the mattress inside is the only reason I'm not napping at this point, and I'm ready to crash. Despite that, I muster all the energy I can to be friendly and smile, and he's pretty friendly, so I'm trying. But my mind went to bed already, and I'm on autopilot. He leans up against the steps and offers some friendly generic small talk by saying, "What you got in there, buddy?" That's when I heard myself saying it and couldn't do anything to stop it, and I said, "Ha, I wish." And in that moment, the fraction of brain I had working scrambled to add something, anything to pull up on this nosedive, but instead what came out only made it worse. "I have a use for that." I said it. I said it with added enthusiasm because it was somehow supposed to fix and overpower the first comment, and I definitely emphasized the word "that," which referred to a dead body. He kept smiling and said, "Have a good day," or whatever, and either wasn't really paying attention or played it off and kept it moving. I dragged my mattress corpse up the steps and inside and went to pee before getting in bed, as I'm half laughing and half wondering what the hell the guy must be thinking. I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror, chewed up cargo sweatpants that had been retired from being in public long ago, baggy beater plain white tee, hair all over the place, and dark circles that made me look like I hadn't slept in days. I remember wondering if the guy called someone immediately to tell them about the weirdo he just delivered to or not before I conked out.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.